In this video, I'm gonna go over how to get started with animation in Blender by using the 3D cube that appears on a default screen when you start with Blender. And I'm gonna cover how to move it around, how to scale it, how to rotate it, and how to move it along the X, Y, and Z axis. And then I'm gonna create certain frames, and the third part, I'm gonna do the animation of the cube. But in case we never met before, my name is George Shamoun, and on this channel and other platform where I have content, I create video tutorials, online courses, and coaching sessions where I help new creators using software and SaaS in order to create videos, animation, web pages, and using Linux commands, and using Visual Studio Code and other software per your request. Now let's get into the video. So now I'm gonna start the Blender by double clicking the icon here on a taskbar, and the main screen you gonna get in the beginning, this screen. So I'm gonna click somewhere around, anywhere in a workplace here. So if I click this one, what was appearing, like where it says it has some text, it disappeared. So this is your main default screen once you open Blender. And I am sure there are other settings where you might be able to create a different default screen, but that's what I have on my system. And so we have this cube here, and you have to click it first. You have to click it in order. It's clicked now. If you click outside in the area, it's gonna get deselected. You click on it, it gets selected, and this is how you know if it's selected. You see this yellow lines around it, boundaries. So what I'm gonna do now, the way you move it, you move a cube, is by clicking on your keyboard on a G button. If you click on a G, and it's gonna become free, and you can, if you move the mouse around, it's free to move on the screen. And while clicking the G, if you wanted to move in a uniform way, like not random like that, you might want to move it along the X-axis, which is the red line here. So what you do, you hit X. If you hit X and you move the mouse, it's gonna move along the X-axis. And if you want it to move along the Y-axis, which is the green one, you click Y, and it's gonna get to this point. And when you move the mouse around, if you move, it doesn't matter how much, like in what direction you move the mouse, it only moves along the Y-axis, because we specified how we want it to be moved. We restricted its movement along the Y-axis, just like we did before on the X-axis. Now we're gonna do on a Z-axis. We're gonna move it along the Z-axis. What we do is hit Z on a keyboard. If you hit Z in a keyboard, and then you move your mouse, you don't want to click anything on the mouse, you just move it. If you move it around, like up and down, it's gonna move the cube along the Z-axis. So this is how you move along the Z-axis. You move the cube from its original location. So now I'm gonna click on it, and if you click on it, it's gonna get selected, and you're not gonna see the lines again where we were moving. So how you know it's the Y and Z axis? If you look on the top right here of the screen, this is the X axis, it's red. And if you look around the cube, this is the red axis here. And if you look at the Y, this is the direct direction of the Y axis, and that's the green axis. If you look at the Z axis, it's right here, and it's along, it's perpendicular to the X and Y axis, and you can see it here. And I'm gonna leave this the way the X and Y axis are situated. I'm not gonna change them, but you can change them if you click on the X, Y, and Z. It depends how you're looking at the screen. If you want it to be looking at from the top, you click on a Z and it will show you the X and Y plane. If you click on a Y, so it's gonna rotate. It depends on what you click. It will show you two-dimensional if you're looking from the top, from the third dimension. But I'm not gonna get into this now. That's not the main topic of this video. So first we learned how to move it. Now we can learn how to rotate the cube. The way we rotate the cube is we click on a R. We click R, and if you see there's this line here and those two arrows, and now this cube is rotating, and it's not specific. Its rotation is not specific about certain axis. We don't. It's random. We don't even know how it's rotating. But again, we can specify how you want it to be rotated, just like we did before, moving along the x-axis, y, and z-axis. What we can do now, after we hit the R for rotation, we hit X. If we hit X, it's gonna rotate around the x-axis, which is the red line. So if I'm gonna hit X now, and if you see there's another X parallel to the x-axis, to the main x-axis, and if you see what I'm doing now, I'm rotating I'm moving the mouse, and I'm trying to follow those two arrows here. If you go this way, you can move it clockwise. If you do it this way, it's moving counterclockwise. And again, if you want it to move around the y-axis, we're gonna hit Y, and then it's gonna rotate. Once you move the mouse, it's gonna rotate around the y-axis. Again, if you hit the z-axis, it's gonna rotate around the z-axis, as you can see here. And there are other ways to rotate it, like you can rotate it around two axes at the same time. I don't know how to do that, and I don't have any use for it yet. So this is what I'm using it for now, just like around one axis. So this is how. So we learned so far how to move along the axis in a straight line, and now how to rotate the cube. Now we can learn how to scale the cube. We can scale it to make it larger and to make it smaller. So let's say, so if we click outside the space, we can release everything, and then we click on the cube, and I'm gonna hit G to move it around a little bit. Let me move it here. Okay, so now what we gonna do, we gonna scale it. The way you scale it, first you select the cube by left clicking the mouse, and once you see those yellow boundaries, it means you selected it. And now we're gonna do the scaling. How to scale it? You hit the S key on your keyboard. If you hit S, and if you see this arrow here in a direction towards the one, towards the direction of the cube, and one away from the cube. So if you move it, you can see the cube getting smaller and getting larger. It depends how you move the this along this line, moving the mouse along. And be just as a reminder, I'm not clicking anything on a mouse. I'm just moving it around, you know, and I'm following those arrows. So so now you make it smaller, now you make it larger. Now again, if we have to make it along certain axes, like now we're doing it as a random scaling, enlarging and making it smaller along, I don't know what axis, it's random. So let's say we can scale it along the x-axis. So what we do is hit the x-axis. I hit the x-axis, and if you see there's another red axe that shows parallel along the main axe, and if we do this, it's gonna get bigger and smaller along the x-axis, but it's not aligned the right way because the angles here are different. But they have to be zero. If the original angle have to be zero, it has to be aligned before we make it smaller and bigger, before we scale it. So let's see. If you look on a right side here, if you see these options here, it says transform. Those you can adjust the coordination of the cube using those rotation and the scaling and those Z. We were, you know, before I was doing them, and if you see, it was you see the numbers here are rotating, and vice versa. You can adjust the numbers in order to situate the cube the way you want in the workplace. So let's say I want to make the cube back to its original. So I'm gonna do the X is 0. I'm gonna make the Y 0, and I'm gonna make the Z 0, and then I'm gonna make the rotation 0, 0, 0, and the scaling I'm gonna keep it 1, 1, 1. So we're back to the original cube. So what I did here is, if you look on the right side, it says a transform on the top. This is a way of moving the cube around too, just like I did before, as the shortcut where you hit the G and you start specifying what axis you want to move around, whether rotate, whether move along the axis in a straight line, or whether scaling. You can use numbers here to simulate the same situation. That's what we did. So now, for example, so we're back. I want to scale it along the x-axis just to show you that it can scale along the x-axis without moving around or doing anything. So I'm gonna do S. I click S, and then X, and then X, and you see it's scaling now properly along the parallel along the x-axis. It's not going like sideways or at an angle. It's going properly around because, you know, initially I situated the way it should be, like 0, 0, as initially it was created. And now let's say I want to scale it along the y-axis. I'm gonna hit Y. Once I hit Y, it's gonna rotate along the y-axis. And once I move my mouse, you can see it's getting bigger and smaller. Same thing along the Z. If I hit the Z key here, it's gonna get smaller and then bigger along the Z axis. And if I hit the space, it's gonna stop. And if I click any place outside the workspace, it's gonna get deselected. And if I click on it and you look here at this side, you can, if you notice, the Z, it has negative coordinates here because, you know, it's below 0 along the Z axis. So if I want to raise it, put it back to its original location, I'm gonna click on a 1 here on a Z, 1, enter, and it's gonna go back to its original location where the where it's at the 0, 0, 0, and its size is 1, 1, 1, and the rotation is 0, 0, 0, as you see here. So that's how you do how you move the cube along the axis in a straight line or random. When you click G, and after G you click the X, Y, Z, and you move it along the X, Y, Z. And if you hit R, you can rotate it, and then you specify around what axis you want. And if you want to scale it again, you can hit the S to scale it, and you can specify what axis you want it to be scaled. And it depends how you move the mouse, it's gonna show you how it's gonna respond. So now let me show you a simple animation, because, you know, with these things, you want to know what can you do with it. And even though myself I'm learning this new, and I've been dabbling with it for a while, and I got stuck a lot, you know, I made some progress, and this is what I'm showing you now. So let's say if you raise this here, if you see you can raise it and lower it, and this is where you enter the keyframes. So the keyframes are positions and numbers that describe the position of the object. And every time you insert a frame, and it's gonna show you what's gonna happen to it during the animation. And in between, it's gonna do what they call extrapolation, where the system will finish the path for you by filling the other frames. So you don't have like to create a lot of frames. So let's say, I'm gonna give you an example now. Let's say I am at frame 1 now. So the way you create frames, you have to hit I. Once you hit I, it says here insert keyframe menu. So you go down to location. So I'm gonna start with location. It means I'm gonna start with my original location. Okay, you have to specify some numbers. Okay, let's say I'm gonna rotate it along the let's see. Okay, so let me move it. Let's try to move it along the x-axis. Location. Okay, I think I know what I'm doing now. I didn't know before. Okay, so I created frame 1 where we moved the cube along the x-axis about let me. Okay, the numbers are here. So okay, let's not worry about the numbers. It moved like around the x, y, and z axis. And now let's go to frame 10. At frame 10, I want to move it along the y-axis. So I'm going to hit Y. And then first I'm going to hit G. And then Y. And I'm going to move it to this point. Click on it. And then I'm going to hit I. And insert frame. It says location. I'm going to hit the location. So that's the second frame at 10 here. And then let's say I want to make some rotation, and so let me rotate it around the z-axis. So if you click R and Z, let's say I did this rotation, I hit I to insert the frame, and I hit rotation. Let's say I go to 20 here, and I'm gonna move it along the x-axis, or actually along the z-axis. Z, I move it up, then I wanna rotate it R around the Z. Okay, now I'm gonna use the location and rotation, and I never used that before, but I think it should give us both the movement and the rotation at the 20 frames. So I hit on location and rotation, and if you see it's giving you yellow dots here, it means it inserted a frame here at each one. So what we're gonna do now, let's say I'm done, and if you look on the top here, it says start 1 and 50. Those you have from 0 to 250 frames, you know. So now since I only have like 20 frames, so I'm gonna diminish the number here to 30 instead of this way. The head, this indicator doesn't go all the way. So if you see, it looks, so now the moving head, it's gonna move around between the 0 and the 30. It's not gonna go up to the 250 because I specified the 30. And now I'm gonna hit the actually let's save. So I'm gonna save as, and I have some other files here. So let's give it a name, test May 29, which is today's date? Yes, 29th. Save. So we saved it. Now I'm gonna go back to I'm gonna click the mouse over this head, the moving head, and I'm gonna start with from 0. So now I'm gonna hit, if you hit the space bar on a keyboard, it's gonna start moving, going back and forth, like it's gonna do like the 1 through 30, then it's gonna do it again until you hit the space bar again to stop it. But now I'm gonna hit the space bar so it starts moving, and it will show you the animation we did, how we created the keyframes and how the animation works. So if I click the space bar now, you see how the cube is moving? So it's doing it by itself now. I'm not touching anything. So this is how you create some kind of simple animation. And once you become more versed in the Blender, you can create more complicated animation. But this is an example of creating keyframes and simple animation. Now the cube is moving by itself, and if I hit the space bar here on a keyboard, it's gonna stop. If I hit it again, it's gonna move, it's gonna do, and it will keep moving between the 0 and the 30, and it's gonna extrapolate the path where it will inserts the other keyframes that you didn't have to create, because I only created about 3 keyframes, and you look at them, one at 0, one at 10, and one at 20, and the system inserted the rest or completed the path of the animation. So that's it for this video. If you have any questions or any comments, please submit them in the comment. I want to thank you very much for attending this video. And if you made it this far, look in the description box to see more resources. If you're interested to learn directly from me in a coaching session, or you're interested in a course or anything, just let me know, add any comments. Thank you again for watching, and I do appreciate your time, because time is the most valuable assets online and offline.